Hello, welcome back to Wiring Methods. Today we're going to be discussing lab number 10, which should look familiar to you guys because it is just lab number 7 that has been flipped on the vertical axis. Our home run is now coming in from the right, and it's going to run still through all three switches and then to the light fixture. This is just creating more, practice for you guys. I know there's several of y'all, in class complaining about, oh man, I've already wired this exact same thing 5 different times. But the idea is that you guys get repetition on these circuits, especially these common circuits, uh, until you know them back and forth. It's especially important with three-way and four-way switches because depending on which way your home run's coming in, they can be confusing. And if you don't really understand how they work, you're going to wire it up wrong. Like you get out in the field, you're going to wire this up wrong at some point if you don't really know how these three-way and four-way circuits interact and work. And even though I've got students that are looking at me telling me, "Oh, we've already done this 3 or 4 times," uh, I still have about 40 or 50% of the students that once they've wired this up the fourth or fifth time, um, there's still something wrong. They still got they put a traveler in the wrong spot. They put a home run into the wrong spot. They hooked up a neutral wire in the same spot. We need to be really working on using this repetition to dial in our uh, our circuits so that we're doing a good job on those, and we're learning them. We're taking the time to learn them. We're not just watching these videos and copying down everything that I show so that you can bring it to class and then just copy it. You should be trying to learn how these circuits work, because we're going to need to know how these circuits work if you want to be able to be successful when you leave here. Okay, so this is lab number 10. We can see that we have, let me bring up my pointer here. We can see that we have our home run is entering in to our first three-way switch. Going into our four-way switch, our four-way switches are always in the middle between two three-way switches. And we could have more than one four-way switch. We could have several. But the four-ways are always going to be in the middle. There's going to be a three-way on either end. And then we're coming to our light fixture. So when we're drawing these, I'm going to come in and I'm first thing that I'm going to do as I'm drawing these is, well, I can find my cursor here. Oops, that looks. Let's erase that back out now that I can see it, and there we go. We're going to bring in my home run into the first light, or the first, not the first light, but the first switch. So I have my cable coming into my first switch. Then there's going to be a cable that leaves my first switch and goes to my second switch. And then I have a cable leaving my second switch going to my third switch. And finally a cable leaving my third switch to go to my light. Get all that drawn in. So now we just have to start placing wires. So I'm going to take, I'm going to have a ungrounded conductor, my hot wire, and I'm going to use blue here for my white wire because white will not show up on this drawing very well. And so my white wire is my neutral, right? So I'm leaving off the grounding conductor there, right? There is also a green wire or a bare copper wire inside of this cable. It's going to need to get hooked to my first switch. It'll get hooked to the second switch. It'll get hooked to the third switch. It'll also get hooked to the light. That grounding conductor, that bare grounding conductor, it's going to get connected to all of our devices, and including our metal boxes if we have metal boxes. But it clutters up our page when right now we're just trying to dial in where the actual current carrying wires need to be connected in this circuit. So if you guys remember from, going back to that first week, right, when I drew a battery and a circuit with a switch going to a light bulb, right, and then coming back from that light bulb all the way back to the beginning of the source of the circuit, right? We're always going to break on the hot wire on the ungrounded side, and our neutral side is going to continue all the way from one end to the other without us breaking that wire. So if we come back to our circuit here, our white wire is here, and so if we're not going to break that wire, well, it's already been broken because we have little sections of cable here, right? We're not pulling one long string of cable through these boxes. That wire is already in section, so I need to tie it back together. I'm going to tie my my wire here together with a wire nut. I'm going to do the same in this box. It's going to continue on to this box where it will continue on and up to our light, right? And then it's not being broken by any switches. It's just being tied together with wire nuts. These aren't very pretty wire nuts, and you're not going to be using a red wire nut to tie together two wires, but for a visual that makes it easy to see. And so now we have to place our home run. And our home run, just as we've looked at before, our home run is getting tied to our common screw, the black screw on a three-way switch. The black screw is my common screw. It is the one if I were to pinch the switch, right? If I were to take, and this isn't a switch, but if I were to take and hold the switch like this, where I'm holding the switch, the two screws that my fingers are on, those are my travelers. The one that would be left off by itself, that is my common screw. It should be painted black, and that is where power comes in. And on this side, it's where power is going to leave the circuit. The other two that are left, those two are my travelers. So one traveler is going to travel power up to my four-way switch. We'll have a red wire here as well that will also travel power up into my four-way switch. We're going to leave this four-way switch, and we're going to come to the travelers of my final three-way switch, and then we're going to leave that three-way switch on the common screw, power in, power out on the common screw, and we're going to come up to our light. And so now our circuit is complete. That's all there is to a three-way circuit. We should know this by now. This is about the third time we've gone over this, and so we should be beginning to understand this. We have power comes in, our neutral doesn't get broken, our power comes in, we split it off in the switch, depending on which way this switch is flipped, right? Depending on which way this switch is flipped, we're going to pass power either the black or the red wire. And then in this switch, depending on which way the switch is flipped, we're either passing from my black to my black, or we're passing from my black to my red, or vice versa, the red to red or the red to black. And then we're going into our last switch, and that last switch works just like the first one does, right? Depending on which way it's flipped, we're either letting power pass through from the red, or we're letting power pass through from the black to continue on to turn on our light. So if any one of these switches gets flipped, it's going to reverse the direction of, or reverse the condition of the circuit from an on to an off, or an off to an on. So that takes care of lab number 10. We'll see you guys later for lab 11.